Welcome back to Dragon Army. My name is Dustin, and this is the third video in a series of books to be on the lookout for in 2021. The first video is about the fantasy books that are being released this year. The second video is about the sci-fi books that are being released this year, and this video is all about the young adult books that are being released this year that is on my list of books to look out for. If you haven't watched those other two videos, check them out in the link in the annotation or in the notes below. I wanted YA to have its own video here because a lot of them are in the fantasy realm and some of them are in the sci-fi realm, but those other two videos really deal with adult fantasy and sci-fi. Not necessarily that there's adult-like themes, it's just these books in this list are written for a slightly younger audience, but many of us today still love and enjoy. So without further ado, here's my list. The first book in the list being Wings of Ebony by J.L., set to be released February 23rd. It's a debut fantasy novel about a black teen from Houston who has her world turned upside down when she finds out about her godly ancestry. I don't typically love urban fantasy, but this is a book and an author that is lauded by Sabaa Tahir, and that's an author that I respect and enjoy her works, so hopefully I'll find something to enjoy here with Wings of Ebony. Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adriana Tooley is set to be released March 9th. Not only does it have a cool cover, but it's a debut fantasy standalone novel, which we don't often get. You always have people writing in series, but standalones are refreshing every once in a while. And it's about a witch cursed to never love who meets a girl hiding her own dangerous magical abilities, and the two work together and build a relationship in order to save the queendom. Really cool young adult fantasy premise here. Next up is a book called Flamefall by Rosaria Munda, set to be released March 23rd. It is the second book in the Aurelian cycle, the first book being Fireborn, which I read recently. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was the 3-star book right in the middle for me that I was just like, yeah, it's all right. I don't know if it's good enough for me to read the second book. What I am intrigued by is that we get a new POV here, and so it might be worth looking into. It's if you like, it's got dragons, and it's got the angsty teenage stuff that's going on there, and it's got these brooding romances. So again, a lot of that is YA, and if you really, really like that, then this might be for you. Next up is a book that I am super excited about. The premise sounds amazing. It's called The Infinity Courts by Akemi Dawn Bowman, set to be released April 6th. Now, we are following a Japanese-American teen who has died. And in the coming moments, she wakes, her consciousness wakes into this new reality called Infinity. And she's having to battle this AI entity posing as the queen of the area that's actually hacked its way into the afterlife with a plan to take it over. And this young girl has to stop that in order to rescue life and the afterlife altogether. Sci-fi heavy here, if you didn't catch that. Cool cover, cool premise. This one I am extremely excited about. And then we have a book called Realm Breaker by Victoria Aveyard, and this is set to be released May 4th. This is the author of the Red Queen series that I read, or at least started to read, and it didn't work for me, so I stopped reading it, but I know that it worked for many. What got me on this one was not only this gorgeous cover, but the premise. Check this out. A mysterious immortal and a deadly assassin appear on Corianne's doorstep, telling her that she is the last in this epic, mysterious bloodline, and she's the only one that can save the world. And so Corianne sets out, I guess, under the tutelage of this assassin and this immortal to save the world. An adventure of her own. Yeah, I mean, that works for me. And then 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, set to be released July 6th. I just want to read the premise to you. Not only does it have a beautiful cover, but check this out. 6 Crimson Cranes centers on an exiled princess who must unweave the curse that turned her brothers into cranes. Assisted by her spurned betrothed, a mercurial dragon, and a paper bird brought to life by her own magic. It sounds fantastical. It sounds fun. It sounds interesting. And then dragons and magic. You tell me that there's dragons and magic, and I'm gonna read your book. Next up, we have Wings of Shadow by Nikki Pau Preto, set to be released July 13th. This is the third and final book in the Crown of Feathers trilogy that began with Crown of Feathers. Every single book in this series has the most beautiful cover art, this third one included. I own Crown of Feathers, haven't begun it yet, but I think that I'm going to be interested in it because there's phoenixi, and there's a relationship between the humans and these phoenix, and they're able to ride them and trust it. I don't know too much about this series, but I do know that there's more world building than is typical or standard in YA literature. But coming from a fantasy and sci-fi adult realm background, I am used to this kind of world building that is a little bit more advanced. So maybe it might be, if you are skeptical when it comes to young adult literature because it seems a little bit too immature for you, this might be a step in the right direction. Don't start with the third one, start with the first one, Crown of Feathers, but then finally climb your way up so that on July 13th, you can read Wings of Shadow. Finally, we've got a book called Nowhere by Brandon Sanderson. Nowhere might not be the final title. This is the standing title for now, set to be released late 2021. It's the third book in the Skyward series. I believe it's going to be the conclusion of the series, but don't quote me on that. And this is about a young girl that is set in a sci-fi world. In fact, it's a different planet altogether that has its own rules, and she's kind of becoming a pilot of her own. And she's snarky, has a pet alien thing that's with her, and ship AI, very sci-fi. For me, the series hasn't felt Brandon Sanderson, and I love Sanderson. It's not a part of the Cosmere. This is a different series altogether. But if you're looking for sci-fi, lead girl, young space, all of that stuff, and from a great author that tells compelling stories with great characters, then Nowhere. Let's start with the first one in the Skyward series, but this book eventually will be for you. Now, this was my list. In fact, these whole 3 videos are my list. As the year progresses, things are going to change. We're going to find out about more books that are being released. If you have any YA books that you think that I should read this year, that is coming out this year, please drop them in the comments down below if I missed them in this video. And then stay tuned to this channel because as the year changes and more books are announced, I'll be able to talk about those as well. Thank you as always for watching and liking this video. If you haven't yet, click subscribe, join the Dragon Army, and we'll see you in the next one.